August 25. In the dusty plains of Huailai, China's new lunar lander touches down, autonomously, flawlessly, stunning NASA and signaling that the space race has a new leader. Beijing's engineers rely on time-tested but unyielding technology, hypergolic propellants, a dual-launch fortress of reliability, and a schedule that now outpaces the world. But then Elon Musk unveils Moon Base Alpha, a vision not just to visit, but to colonize the moon, pushing even NASA to follow his lead. China is left facing a threat they never anticipated, a future where control of the moon, and perhaps more, could slip out of their grasp. What happens next changes everything you thought you knew about who owns the final frontier. At dawn on August 6, 2025, the air at Huailai is thick with dust and anticipation. Engineers from the China National Space Administration gather as the Lanyu lunar lander sits suspended by cables, poised above a cratered field designed to mimic the moon's rugged surface. The signal comes. Lanyue's main engines fire, 4 nozzles burning hypergolic propellants, a toxic mix but chosen for their absolute reliability. The lander drops, corrects, hovers, and searches. Its computers scan the simulated lunar landscape, ignoring decoys and debris, locking onto a single safe landing site. With a final burst, the legs absorb the shock. The module settles, upright and undamaged. For the first time, China's engineers watch a full-scale crewed lunar lander execute an autonomous touchdown and ascent sequence on Earth, proving the system can guide itself, correct errors, and survive the violence of lunar landing. Huang Zhen, chief designer, stands with arms crossed, eyes fixed on the telemetry. Every system reports green. No abort, no anomaly. The lander's ascent engines ignite next, lifting the upper module away from the simulated lunar surface, just as it must do to return taikonauts to lunar orbit. The test runs through the entire mission profile in real time. Descent, landing, shutdown, restart, ascent. Guidance, navigation, and control work together, not just in theory, but in a live demonstration. The test site, built for this moment, uses a massive tower and servo system to replicate lunar gravity, letting the lander prove itself under 1/6 Earth's pull. The field below is pocked with artificial craters and boulders, each a silent threat. Lanyu's hazard detection system, trained on thousands of images, ignores the traps and lands within meters of its target. The achievement is not lost on international observers. Western analysts, tracking China's lunar timeline for years, had predicted a slower pace, perhaps a crewed landing by 2032 or later. Now, with the Lanyu test complete, those estimates are out the window. Lin Shiqiang, deputy director of the China Manned Space Agency, confirms to state media that the entire lunar mission stack, Long March 10th rocket, Mengzhou crew vehicle, and Lanyu lander remains on track for a 2030 landing. The successful test at Huailai is more than a technical checkbox. It is a message. China's lunar program is not theoretical, not years away, but operational and accelerating. The lander's design draws on Apollo-era principles, yet everything about it is scaled for modern safety. 4 wide legs, each with deep crushable pads, spread the impact. Multiple engines arranged for redundancy mean that even if one fails, the crew can still escape. The lower stage carries all the fuel for descent and ascent, while the upper cabin is pressurized and shielded, ready to support 2 taikonauts for days on the moon. Lanyu's systems are built to be rugged, not elegant. Every kilogram justified by safety, every system tested for failure. This is not the bold, risk-embracing style of SpaceX. It is cautious, relentless, and deeply conservative. The shock in Washington and Houston is immediate. NASA's lunar planners, watching the telemetry feeds, realize that China's methodical approach, once dismissed as slow, has leapfrogged expectations. The entire system works, not just in simulation, but in a field test that mimics every danger of lunar landing. For the first time since Apollo, a new lunar lander has proven it can do the job, start to finish, with no human intervention. The space race, once a distant echo, is now a live contest. China's engineers standing in the dust at Huailai know what this means. The moon is no longer a distant goal, but a near-term reality. And the world is watching. China's lunar planners gather in windowless rooms, diagrams of the Long March 10 rocket and the Mengzhou crew vehicle pinned to the walls. Their approach is deliberate. shaped by decades of lessons from both triumph and disaster. The Lunar lander runs on hypergolic propellants, hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide. These chemicals ignite the moment they meet. There's no spark, no moving parts, no chance for a failed ignition sequence. The price is high. The fuel is toxic, corrosive, and must be handled with extreme care. But in the vacuum of space, reliability outweighs elegance. Every lunar mission since the 1960s that put humans on the moon has trusted hypergolics for critical maneuvers. China's engineers demand that same certainty. The Long March 10 is a heavy-lift rocket, rising almost 93 meters, built to launch both people and hardware beyond low Earth orbit. Its 7 YF-100K engines burn kerosene and liquid oxygen, generating nearly 1,000 tons of thrust. But the real innovation is in the mission architecture. Instead of a single, all-in-one vehicle, China splits the risk. The Mengzhou crew capsule launches separately from the Lunar lander. Both vehicles rendezvous in lunar orbit. If one rocket fails, the other mission is not doomed. This dual launch system means no single point of failure can endanger both the crew and their lander. It's a lesson learned from Apollo 13 and Soyuz disasters. Never trust the lives of astronauts to a single machine. Each step in the process is rehearsed. The Mengzhou capsule, shaped by years of Shenzhou experience, carries 3 taikonauts. Once in lunar orbit, 2 transfer to Lanyu, leaving one behind in the command module, an extra layer of safety. The lander itself is conservative by design. 4 crushable legs, redundant engines, and a pressurized upper cabin. Even the hazard detection system is trained not to innovate, but to avoid risk, scanning for safe ground and ignoring everything else. Hypergolic fuels are chosen not for performance, but for their ability to sit in tanks for months without boiling off. The lander can wait in lunar orbit, power down, then start up again on command. There's no need for complicated cooling systems or last-minute fueling. The same logic applies to the mission timeline. China's planners accept longer schedules and heavier vehicles in exchange for the certainty that, when the engines are called to fire, they will do so without hesitation. This methodical architecture stands in stark contrast to the rapid-fire iteration seen elsewhere. Here, every kilogram is justified by safety. Every system is tested to destruction before flight. The dual launch strategy, the reliance on proven fuels, the conservative design, all reflect a philosophy that values guaranteed success over speed or spectacle. The result is a lunar program that, while less flashy, is formidable. It's a system built not to impress, but to endure. Elon Musk stands in front of a blueprint that stretches from lunar orbit to the rim of Shackleton Crater. His plan is not a flag and footprints mission. He wants a city, Moonbase Alpha, carved into the sunlit peaks of the lunar South Pole. This is not a science outpost, not a temporary camp, but the beginning of permanent life beyond Earth. Musk's vision centers on a string of Starship landers, each one delivered whole to the surface, then converted into pressurized habitats. He chooses Shackleton Crater for a reason. Its rim catches sunlight for more than 85% of the lunar year. Solar panels can run almost non-stop, powering life support, greenhouses, and industry. Just meters below the surface, instruments have mapped water ice, enough to make air, water, and rocket fuel, enough to turn the moon into a stepping stone for Mars. Inside each Starship hull, decks stack up like a tower laid on its side. The empty tanks become workspaces, sleeping quarters, hydroponic farms. The walls are lined with insulation and radiation shielding, some of it made from regolith scooped from the crater floor. Airlocks connect the ships, forming a network that can grow as more starships arrive. The first modules support a dozen people. The next wave doubles that, then doubles again. Each new arrival brings machinery, rovers, drills, 3D printers, and autonomous robots that build landing pads and carve out tunnels for storage and shelter. The plan calls for everything to be reused. Starships that once braked through lunar dust are stripped of engines and refitted as permanent homes. Tanks that once held methane now store water or compressed air. Even the landing legs become structural supports. Nothing is left to waste. Overhead, solar arrays track the sun as it circles the horizon. Below, radiators dump heat into the vacuum. The base is designed for cycles. Water recycled, oxygen regenerated, food grown in closed loops. Every system is tested for failure. Every backup has a backup. Musk's long-term goal is self-sufficiency. The regolith is rich in oxygen and metals. Early experiments bake it into bricks for walls and landing pads. Water ice is split into hydrogen and oxygen for fuel, turning the moon into a refueling stop for Mars-bound ships. The base's location, just 100 kilometers from the pole, means access to both sunlight and shadowed craters, places where water never melts, where temperatures never rise above minus 200 degrees Celsius. These shadows are treasure vaults for future industry. The scale of Moon Base Alpha is staggering. Musk talks in terms of hundreds of launches, not a handful. He imagines a supply chain where starships fly from Texas to the moon every month, each one landing with 100 tons of cargo. The base grows by accretion, not by master plan. First come the habitats, then labs, then factories, then the first children born on another world. Musk's vision is not a race to plant a flag, but a blueprint for civilization. While others aim for a visit, he aims for permanence. The moon, in his plan, is not an end but the first rung on a ladder to the stars. Starship stands out as the first fully reusable super heavy rocket. Its stainless steel hull towers 120 meters, dwarfing Saturn V and China's Long March 10. Each launch can carry up to 150 metric tons to low Earth orbit, more than 5 times the payload of China's lunar stack. But size alone doesn't explain why engineers in Houston and Beijing are watching so closely. The real shock comes from cost. Starship's projected launch price is less than $2 million per flight, a figure that slashes more than 99% off the price of sending mass to space. By contrast, NASA's Space Launch System burns through over $2.5 billion for each Artemis launch, and China's Long March 10, while cheaper, is still expendable. Every rocket is thrown away after one use. Reusable rockets change the rules. Starship is designed for rapid turnaround, land, refuel, launch again. The same vehicle can fly dozens, even hundreds of times. This isn't theory. SpaceX's Falcon 9, a smaller cousin, has already proven the model with over 300 successful reflights. The difference is scale. Where Falcon 9 brings up satellites and cargo, Starship is built for entire habitats, fleets of rovers, even industrial equipment. It can deliver what would take China or NASA years of launches in a single mission. NASA's Artemis program now depends on Starship as its human landing system. In April 2021, NASA awarded SpaceX a $2.9 billion contract to develop, test, and supply the lunar lander for Artemis 3. No other vehicle, American or Chinese, can match its payload or price. Artemis astronauts will launch on SLS, but the critical step, actually landing on the moon, relies entirely on SpaceX hardware. NASA's own planners admit they have no backup. If Starship fails, Artemis stalls. If it works, the US leapfrogs any rival in lunar logistics. The numbers are stark. Starship's cargo bay can fit 2 full-sized city buses, or a pressurized habitat for a dozen astronauts. It's designed to land upright on the moon, then convert into a base module. No need for cranes or surface assembly. Each flight can bring up 100 tons of supplies, from solar arrays to 3D printers. With orbital refueling, Starship can deliver even more to the lunar surface or push on to Mars. China's dual launch system, while robust, splits risk but also payload. Each mission requires 2 rockets, 2 rendezvous, and careful timing. Any failure means delay, or worse, mission loss. For China's planners, Starship's pace is unnerving. SpaceX builds and tests new prototypes every month at Starbase, with explosions and successes broadcast live. Each failure leads to rapid redesign. By the time China's lunar stack flies its first crew, SpaceX could have flown dozens of Starships to the moon, each one cheaper and more capable than the last. Even NASA, once the world's undisputed leader, now finds itself dependent on Musk's rocket factory in Texas. The agency's own lunar lander designs fell behind, outpaced by Starship's relentless development and cost advantage. Congressional hearings have grilled NASA officials. Why can't the US government match the speed or price of a private company? The answer is simple. No one else has built a fully reusable rocket at this scale, and every year of delay widens the gap. For China, the threat is existential. If Starship's model works, the cost to build and supply a moon base drops from billions to millions. Permanent settlement becomes not just possible, but economically sensible. The world's most populous nation, with decades of careful planning, now faces a competitor who can change the game with each new launch. In this new space race, speed and scale matter more than ever. And for now, Starship is running laps around the old playbook. On August 7, 2025, just one day after China's lunar lander completed its full-scale test, headlines break from Rome to Houston. The Italian space agency, ASI, announces a signed agreement with SpaceX. Italy's experiments will ride aboard the first commercial Starship bound for Mars. Gwynne Shotwell, SpaceX's president, posts the news with a single line: Starship services are now open for business on the Red Planet. The payload list is public: a plant growth experiment, a weather station, and a radiation sensor, all set for a 6-month journey and surface deployment. No price tag is revealed, but the message is clear. While China's planners tally engine burns and lunar rendezvous, Musk's team is booking cargo for another world. The timing is no accident. China's lunar test had dominated global coverage for less than 24 hours. Now, SpaceX is shifting the spotlight. The Italian deal is not just a science package, it's a declaration. The race is no longer just about the moon. Musk is selling tickets to Mars before China's first crew even suits up for lunar orbit. NASA officials, already dependent on Starship for Artemis, watch as SpaceX moves the finish line again. The old contest, who lands first, who builds fastest, now has a new front. While other nations plan for lunar outposts, Musk is already signing partners for the next leap. The rules of the space race have changed overnight, and the world is left scrambling to catch up. Lunar resources are not just scientific prizes. They are the keys to the next era of global power. Water ice locked in the shadows of polar craters can be split into hydrogen and oxygen, the same propellants that fueled Saturn V and will drive Starship. Whoever controls the ice controls the fuel. With propellant made on the moon, rockets can leap from one world to the next without hauling every kilogram up from Earth. A permanent base at Shackleton Crater or Malapert Massif becomes more than a research outpost. It's a refueling depot, a gateway, a foothold for everything that follows. The moon offers more than water. Its surface holds metals, rare earth elements, and helium-3, resources that could power industries or disrupt existing markets on Earth. But the most immediate prize is leverage. A base that can produce fuel and support long-term crews gives its operators the high ground, both literally and strategically. In a world where every satellite, every GPS signal, every national defense system depends on space, the ability to launch, refuel, and resupply from the moon could tip the balance of power far from Earth's surface. For China, the risk is clear. If SpaceX turns Moonbase Alpha into a permanent hub, the US and its partners could dominate cislunar space, set the rules for resource claims, and lock in the first mover advantage for decades. For the United States, failure to secure a foothold means ceding the initiative, and perhaps the future, to a rival. The new race is not just for the moon, but for the command of everything beyond it. In August 2025, China's Lunar lunar lander completed its first autonomous landing test at Huailai, confirming that China's schedule for a crewed moon mission is ahead of official projections. This milestone used hypergolic fuels and a dual launch system, reflecting a strategy built on proven, reliable technologies. Meanwhile, SpaceX's Starship, with its 150-ton payload capacity and full reusability, has driven costs down by more than 99% and established itself as the backbone of NASA's Artemis program. The documentary revealed how China's methodical advances and Musk's push for a permanent moon base highlight a fundamental divide in approach. However, key details about China's lunar operations remain undisclosed, and the full scope of SpaceX's Mars ambitions is still emerging. What is clear is that access to lunar resources and permanent infrastructure are now central to global influence in space. As primary source documents show, the race for the moon is no longer just about landing. It is about who will stay and who will lead.